Hello, am I audible? Am I audible to you guys? Just give me a confirmation in chat. Can you guys hear me or not? Just give me the confirmation in the chat. Hello. What do you want to show into? I've given you the permission to share your screen. If you want to share anything, you can share it. Am I audible to you guys or not? Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Thanks for the confirmation. Okay. I think you all had done the assignment. Okay. Now let's just start with our next machine learning model or next machine learning technique. Okay. Which is going to be SVM, support vector machine. Okay. It's going to be SVM. Okay. And just keep in mind that the attendance and the your doubt. What is your doubt? Just ask the chat or share your screen. If you have now, just share your screen or ask in the chat or turn on your mic if you can do that. OLS is nothing but optimum least square. It's a method. It's a method known as in linear regression. Okay. In linear regression, if you are finding the least square, mean square error, okay, then it's known as OLS. OLS is just a different name of linear regression, nothing else. Okay. Apart from that, R square is the score. I already told you the R square is the score with which we check how much our predicted data resembles with our actual data. How much percentage our predicted data resembles with our actual data. Okay. For regression problems, it is known as R square, and for the classification problems, it is known as accuracy coefficient or accuracy percentage. Okay. We are going to do today a classification problem in which we'll try to calculate the accuracy percentage, not the R square value. Okay. It's basically how much of your data gives the correct output with the predicted value. Because in regression, we always have continuous value. Okay. And most of the cases, we don't be knowing the exact output, because the exact output can be any continuous values, because continuous value can be of infinite names. Continuous value can be of infinite values. But even OLS summary provides R2. Yeah. OLS summary provides the R2 value, but OLS summary is something that in which you have to only you can take 1 to 2 dependent variables. But in linear regression, we can take 2, 4, 10, 20, whatever the amount of independent variable we can. Okay. OLS is basically working best when we have only 1 to 2 independent variable. But if you call it a linear regression, you can use 10, 20, 30, whatever the number of amount of linear regression you want. Okay. Okay, let's just start today's session. Okay. So now we are going today to see a technique with which we can do both regression and classification problem. Okay. Because we know that if our data set is not linear, okay, because logistical regression or linear regression has a drawback that our data set should be linear. Okay. What if our data set is not linear? Then how we are going to classify our data set? Okay, how we are going to classify our data set or how we are going to draw a line? Okay, so it's not possible. Like the same way linear regression, we have a polynomial regression also. But if the data set does not follow the polynomial trend also, then what we are going to do? If we don't have the labels. So if we don't have the labels, we are going to use classification, okay, which is known as unsupervised learning. Okay, so with the help of support vector machine, you can provide do both supervised and unsupervised learning. That is, you can do both classification and regression. Okay, so data classification is a very important task. What happened? Okay, so data classification is very important task in machine learning because all the time we don't have labels, or I should say, most of the time we don't have labels. Okay, because labeled data can be treated as unlabeled data also, but unlabeled data cannot be treated as labeled one. Okay, so most of the time we don't have labels with us, so most of the time we use unsupervised learning, or you can say classification task. Okay, so if you have a classification problem, if you have a non-linear regression problem, then you can apply both SVM. In that case, in both the cases you can apply SVM. Okay, okay, so as you can see on your screen, a support vector machine is a supervised machine learning algorithm, okay, which can be used for both classification and regression. Okay, if you have a regression problem, you can also then use SVM, and if you have classification problem, then also you can use SVM. Okay, it's a supervised learning algorithm, and it has a special technique which is also known as kernel tick, which transform data. Based on this transformation, we are able to find an optimal boundary. Okay, so how this is going to transform data, we are going to see that basically it's convert data into a higher dimension. Okay, it converts data into a higher dimension. Okay, okay, so how does it work? So the main working is to, we have to find a optimal hyperplane separating the margins of the training data. Okay, suppose we have a data set, we have this axis, and we have data set like this. Clear this out and draw with that. Yeah, let's draw with this one. Okay, so suppose this is my, okay, and I have two different types of point. I have two different types of point. These are some of my pink points, and Again, I have some of the yellow points. I hope you all can see my screen. My screen is visible to you all. Okay. So these are my yellow points and these are my pink points. So what if I have to classify that which of my point is yellow and which of my point is pink? Okay. How can I classify? Okay. How can I classify that which of my points is pink and which of my points are yellow? Okay. So to classify, what I can do is I can draw a simple line in between them. I can draw a simple line in between them. Okay. And I will say that all the points on the right side of the line are yellow and all the points on the left side of the line are pink. I can draw a line like this, or I can draw a line like this also, or I can draw a line like this also. Okay. I can draw three different lines. So according to you, which one what do you think is the best line? According to you, which one is the best line? The line A, the line B, or the line C? Please provide the answer in the chat. According to you, what do you think is the best line? Okay, B line. Okay, so you think line B is the best possible line, and why do you think so? Why do you think so that line B is the my best possible line? Equidistance from both. Okay, so you think line B is my best possible line because B is at equal distance from both the points. Okay, B is at equal distance from both the points. Okay, let me just draw a different set of points. Suppose I have some points like this. These are my blue points. And these are my pink points. Sorry, this line is okay. Can I now draw a line between these blue and pink points? How can I draw a line between this blue and the pink points? Can I draw or not? Just give me the confirmation in the chat. Just tell me your answer. That we can draw a line to separate this pink point and blue points or not. Circle. Okay, we cannot draw a line, but we can draw a circle. Okay, let's see. So because you can see that these lines are basically on the same planes, all these points are on the same plane of x and y axis. So drawing a circle is not possible. Sorry, drawing a line is not possible. But if we want to draw a circle, we can do that. But the drawback is that SVM does not have any circle hyperplane. Okay, SVM does not have any circle hyperplane. Okay, and what is hyperplane? Okay, let me just show you that what is hyperplane. Okay, so for instance, we can draw a line in which all the points above the line are green and the ones below the line are red. Such line is set as a separating hyperplane, as we have already seen. Okay, now the support vector machine for general n dimensional set too. Okay, इसमें कितने भी dimensions के data set हो, if you have 3 dimension, 4 dimension, 10 dimension, you can use SVM. Okay, that's not the case in linear regression. In linear regression, the data set should be of 2D data or 1D data only. Okay, and in case of higher dimension, the hyperplane is generalized for a plane. Okay, the hyperplane is known as a single plane. Okay, more formally, in a one-dimensional subspace, the n-dimensional equivalent space so far. So देखिए अगर what if we have 1D data, so in 1D data a single point represents the hyperplane. Okay, all the points on the right side of the hyperplane will be of different class like green, and all the points on the left side of that single point will be of red type or pink type or whatever the type. Okay, in 2D that set we can draw a line, we have already seen that, but in 3D that set a plane is a hyperplane, a complete surface which will be having an x, y, and z coordinate. Okay, a complete surface which will be having an x, y, and z coordinates. Okay, let's see. We'll see how to draw a plane in 3D space just in a second. Just let me be confirm or be sure that you understand the concept of hyperplane. Okay, so in this figure we have 3 different lines. Okay, we have multiple hyperplanes which can separate both the points, this yellow points and red points. Okay, and you can easily see from these points that the line B is the best which separate both the classes. Okay, the line B is the best which separate both the classes. But what if we have this type of lines? Okay, so in this case we have 3 different lines A, B, and C. Okay, so what is the line you are going to choose? Which one according to you is the best line, is the best possible line which is separating both the yellow points and the red points? Which one is according to you is the line which separate both the yellow points and the red points in the best possible way? B. Okay, again our answer is B. Okay, so while creating a hyperplane, what is our main aim? Our main aim is to choose a hyperplane which is as far as possible from the data points of each category. Okay, हमारा main, what our main aim is to choose a plane or choose a hyperplane which is at the maximum distance from both the categories. Okay, this is where this name comes from, support vector machine. Okay, this is where the name comes from, support vector machine. So in support vector machine, what we do is, what happened? Okay, so in support vector machine, what we do is we maximize the distance between the nearest points of each class and the hyperplane, which results in an optimal separating hyperplane. The distance is called margin. Okay, the distance is called margin. So what I mean by this line is that I select a hyperplane, but to select a hyperplane, first I draw support vectors. Okay, so what are support vectors? Support vectors are the line passing from the extreme points. Okay, support vectors are the line passing from the extreme points. Here you can see that it's a line passing from these extreme points, and in this case this is my extreme point, so it's a line passing from this extreme point. Okay, So first I draw a line passing from the extreme point of all the categories. If we have two categories, I will draw from two. If I have three from, then I will have three categories. Okay. So in this case, I have two categories. So I will draw a line which is passing from the extreme point of both the categories. And I will make sure that this support vectors line which I'm going to draw are parallel to each other. Okay. These support vector lines are parallel to each other. Okay. Can any one of you give me a reason why I am choosing this support vector lines to be parallel? Can any one of you give me a reason that why I'm choosing the support vector lines to be parallel? What if they are not parallel? Just try to think of a reason that why we should choose the support vector line to be parallel. What if they are not parallel? For getting optimal hyperplane, we choose parallel? No, that's not the exact reason. Okay, so if we are not choosing a line to be parallel, suppose we have two support vectors which are not parallel. So if the two lines are not parallel, they will intersect at some point. Okay, they will intersect at some point, which will lead to invalidate our hyperplane condition. Okay, which will lead to invalidate our hyperplane condition or our characterization. Okay, because if the two lines, suppose if I draw two lines like this and this, okay, these two lines intersect at this particular point. So how I'm going to say that these are my support vectors? Because these lines are intersecting and the points beside this line, like the points here, should be yellow points, but here due to this line the points should be here, should be the yellow points, but due to this line the points at this side should be red points. So I'm classifying these points to be both yellow and red. Okay, I'm classifying these points to be both yellow and red. That's the condition in which I can draw an half. This is D. Then I divide the distance by 2, and at but that particular instance, at that particular distance which I will receive from here, like suppose if I receive a distance here like x, okay, so I will draw a hyperplane passing from that x point. Okay, I will draw a hyperplane passing from that x point, and the main aim of my hyperplane is that it should be at maximum distance from both the support vectors. Okay, it should be at maximum distance from both the support vectors. The distance between the support vectors is known as margin, and I want to make sure that my margin is at maximum. Okay, why I want to make sure that our margin should be maximum? Because suppose this is my training data on which I'm going to draw an hyperplane. What if I have some points like here in testing data? Okay, what if I have some points like here and some points like here? Okay, so if I have in the testing data I have some points like this. Okay, then if I'm not selecting a hyperplane which is at the maximum distance from both the condition, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a hyperplane which is at the right side or left side, and in that condition I will not be able to classify these points, the test points correctly. I will not be able to classify this test point correctly. Okay, that's why I require a hyperplane which should be at maximum distance from both the margin. Okay, the margin. Okay, classify most of the points correctly so that I can classify most of the points correctly. Okay, see, the goal of the SPM is to find an optimal hyperplane because it is not only classify the existing dataset, okay, but also helps us to predict the classes of an unseen data, which will be your test data or any future data, okay. And the optimal hyperplane is the one which has the biggest margin, because with the help of biggest margin we'll be able to classify more and more points correctly. Okay, with the help of biggest margin we'll be able to classify more and more points correctly. Okay, am I clear till now? Do you have any type of doubt? Please let me know in the chat, or if you are clear, just give me the confirmation in the chat also. Again, in that case also.
Sir, the optimal hyperplane must be the parallel to the support vectors.
Yes,
Or
optimal hyperplane will be parallel to the support vectors. Any other doubt? The optimal hyperplane will also be a parallel line because we are drawing an hyperplane or plane between these parallel lines at an equal distance from this parallel line. So it will also be a parallel line. Okay. Now let's understand what is kernel trick. This is because the main reason why SVM is more popular and it can execute higher dimensional data set. Okay, this is the main reason it can execute higher dimensional data set. Okay, so I have told you that we are not able to draw a circle, but we can draw a line. So what we can draw, we can take a point for 1D data set, we can take a line for 2D data set, and we can take a plane for 3D or higher dimensional data set. Okay, we can take a plane, a complete plane. In the previous case you are saying that we are taking a line, which I'm calling an optimal hyperplane. Okay, in this case what I'm going to do is, there's a technique known as kernel trick in SVM which transform your lower dimensional data into a higher dimensional data. Okay, you don't have to write anything, it just transform out on its own. If it's not able to find an optimal hyperplane in the 2D dataset, then it will transform that 2D dataset into a 3D dataset. Okay, and when it's going to transform this 2D dataset into a 3D dataset, it's going to find an optimal hyperplane. Okay, see this is the condition. We don't know what's the height of this red and green point, so it's just transferring this red and green point from a 2D dataset to a 3D dataset, and it's making sure that the red points are at higher level or higher height and the green points are at lower height, so that we can draw a decision surface. This decision surface is known as a plane surface or a 3D plane. Okay, which will have its own x, y, and z coordinates. This is a 3D plane. Okay, so the kernel trick, where the kernel transforms the data into higher dimensional feature space so that the linear separation is possible. Okay, because SVM also does only the linear separation. Okay, so we cannot draw a polynomial line or we cannot draw a circle line. We'll be only able to do a linear separation. Okay, is this kernel trick uh, clear to you all, guys? Just give me the confirmation in the chat. Is this kernel trick clear to you all or not? once again, sir. Okay. So this is my data set, which is in my x and y coordinates only. Okay. This is my data set, which is in x and y coordinates. So now I cannot draw a line which will correctly classify this red and green points. Okay. I cannot draw a line like this or anything like this, which will be able to classify this red and green points. Okay. That points on the right side of the line are red and points on the left side of the line are green. So what I do is I apply the kernel trick. Okay, SVM will apply this kernel trick on its own. You don't have to do any task like for that. Okay, we have commands for all that conditions. Okay, so what SVM will do is SVM will transform this 2D dataset into a 3D dataset. Okay, you can see this is my X plane, Y plane, and this is my Z plane. Okay, it's transforming this 2D dataset into a 3D dataset or into a higher dimensional dataset. You can say, making sure when we are transforming this to a higher dimension dataset that it has a sufficient amount of feature spaces. Okay, it has a sufficient amount of feature spaces. So you can see that these are all the green points which still lie on the surface of x and y plane, and these are all the red points which are at a higher dimension or which are at a height from that x and y plane. These all z points have a z coordinate also, and all the z coordinates of these green points is 0. So will be able to draw a plane. Will not be drawing a line. Will be able to draw a plane. Okay. You know the equation of plane. You know the equation of plane. According to Brilliant, if we know the okay. So the equation of plane will be something like that. That you will have z coordinates for something ax plus by. For so x and y coordinates will have some value of z also. For each point of x and y, we will have some value of z also. Okay. Or you can say that ax plus by plus cz is equals to 0. Okay. This you can write this as an equation of your plane. Okay. So now I'm able to draw a plane surface which will be able to classify this red points and green points correctly, that all the points below this plane, okay, all the points below this plane are green and all the points above this plane are red. Okay, am I clear to you guys now? Do you guys understand this kernel trick now or not? Okay, so now we have different types of parameters with which we can improve our accuracy. So before going on to that, let's just try to see what are the different types of conditions. See, this is my support vectors for which I will draw a support vector plane which should be parallel to each other, and then we'll draw a hyperplane. Okay, so in this scenario you have already seen that b is my perfect line. In this scenario, just write in the chat that in scenario 2 which line do you think will be the best hyperplane. In scenario 2, this we have line a, b and c. According to you, which line will be the best hyperplane? I'm going to just show you different types of scenarios which are possible. Okay, c line. Okay, okay, now let's take another scenario. Okay, which line do you think will be the best hyperplane? A. Yes. The scenario A will be the best hyperplane because B has greater distance, but we classified this point incorrectly. Okay, this star point is been classified by B hyperplane incorrectly. If we don't have it in the star point, then B will be the optimal choice. But because we have this star point, then B is classified which is incorrectly. That's why we have to select hyperplane A. That's why we have to select hyperplane A. Okay. Now let's see different conditions. Okay. So what do you think in this scenario I should be able to do? Will this line A will be my hyperplane or not? The line A which I have drawn will be my correct hyperplane or not? Give me the answer in the chat. That will this line A will be my correct hyperplane or not? Yes, sir, I think correct. Yes, it will be correct because you can see that this star point is an outlier. Okay, because all the star points are here, we can expect a star point to be somewhere here, to be somewhere here, to be somewhere here. But this star point is at this place, which is surrounded by all the red dots. Okay, so we can think of or we can consider this star point to be an outlier. What by outlier? What I mean this star point is an error in the data set. Okay, this star point is an error in the data set which must be filled incorrectly. For suppose example, let's suppose I'm writing the age of all the students in a class. Okay, and all the age are in between 15 to 25. All the age of the students in the school are between 15 to 25. But suppose in the one of the form, if the age is written as 125 or 130 or 1000, then we can surely say that this point is an error point. Okay, we can surely say that this point is an error point. Okay, because age cannot be 125 or 1025 or anything like that for a school student. Okay, see, as I have already mentioned, one star at the other end is like an outlier for the star class because SVM won't be able to draw any type of hyperplane which will be correctly classifying this star. Okay, so we'll ignore this star point and we'll draw our hyperplane. Yeah, noise point, you can say that. Okay, now in this scenario, what should we do? In this scenario, can I take this point line A to be my hyperplane, or can I take this line B to be my hyperplane, or should I do anything other? Transformation, yeah. Then for this type of conditions, I'm going to apply the kernel trick. Okay, I'm going to apply a kernel trick, which you can say that for this type of condition, you can see that all the z points are clear to x and y coordinates, are closer to x and y coordinates. Okay, and all the star points are at some distance from the x and y coordinates. Okay, are at some distance from an x and y coordinates. So in this condition, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a equation. Okay, so this is how your kernel transformation works. It basically applies different types of equation. Like in this case, I'm going to apply this equation, which is known as z equals to x square plus y square. Okay, which is known as z equals to x square plus y square. So with all the values of x and y, you can going to see that we are going to get a lesser value of z points because they are closer to the x and y coordinates. And for all the values of and in case of stars, because stars are at a higher distance from x and y coordinates, then we are going to get some greater values of z in all the star points. Okay, we are going to get a greater value of z in all the star points. So when we are going to transform this 2D data into this 3D space, which has coordinate x and y and z, then in this condition we are going able to draw a hyperplane like this. We'll be able to draw a hyperplane like this, which will be passing in between this z points and the star points, so that we are able to classify this z points and the star points easily. So that we are able to classify this z points and the star points easily. Okay, which will be known as your kernel trick, which is known as your kernel trick. We cannot draw a hyperplane with like this circle equation. Okay, we cannot draw a hyperplane with this circle. Okay, because hyperplanes are always linear. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so now we are going to see some of the regularization parameters. Okay, you must be having any type of doubt in this. To just see it here, when we are going to do the practical, you are going to understand what this regularization parameter exactly means. Okay, so what this regularization parameter, first parameter is c. Okay, so the c regularization parameter is control between a trade-off. Okay, controls the trade-off between the slack and the variable penalties misclassification. So what I mean by this c is that this C value will penalize your kernel or will penalize your hyperplane if it's going to classify a point incorrectly. Okay, if it's going to classify a point incorrectly. Okay, suppose I have point like this, 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 and I have some points like, sorry for that. Okay, suppose I have points like this. These are my red points and my pink points. So what I mean by slack is that with the help of slack, I'm not forced to draw a line. I'm not forced to draw a line which is exactly straight line. It can have some type of bendings. Okay, it can have some type of bendings due to different types of function like sigmoid and all. We'll see that. Okay, so it this C points provide a trade-off, means it will penalize me whenever I'm going to classify. Just this, my point was missing. This was my pink point, one more point. Okay, now let's suppose I'm going to draw hyperplane. Okay, so like suppose if I'm drawing my hyperplane, let's suppose I'm drawing my hyperplane like this. Okay, so I'm misclassifying this C, this pink point, so it will give me penalize. The C point will penalize me, means the value of C will increase. Okay, so that I change my hyperplane from this condition to this condition, so that there should be no misclassification. Okay, so that there should be no misclassification. Small c makes the constraint easy to ignore, which leads to large margin. Means if we have a small value of c, we can have some type of misclassification. So if we have low value of C, then we can select this blue line. Okay. And if we have higher value of C, then we cannot have any type of misclassification. Then we have to select this black point as my hyperplane. Okay. I cannot ignore that point. Okay. Large C allows constraint harder to be ignored, which leads to a small margin. Okay. Because when I was selecting this blue line, I was having a good enough margin. But when I'm selecting this black point or black hyperplane, then my margin is very small. Okay. Then my margin is very small. But when I was selecting this blue point, my margin was very large. So this is what C is all about. C value will always be an integer value. Okay. Now moving on to other different parameters. Okay. Now see, we have different parameters apart from C. Okay. So apart from C, we have one parameter known as kernel. Okay. The default value of kernel is RBF. Okay. This is the default kernel RBF. Now suppose if you have values which are linear in nature, then you can also select the linear point or linear kernel. Okay. If you have values which are polynomial in nature, you can select polynomial kernel. Okay. Then that hyperplane can be of polynomial nature if you are selecting a kernel to be polynomial. Okay. Then we have RBF, then we have sigmoid, or you can create a kernel of your own. Okay. Then in case if you are selecting a polynomial function or polynomial kernel, then in that case only you have to also write the degree of that polynomial. Okay. The degree of that polynomial also. In if you are selecting a polynomial kernel, then the default value of the degree of the polynomial is 3 in that case. Okay. Default value is 3 in that case. Okay. And if you are setting kernels like RBF, polynomial or sigmoid, okay, not for pre-computed or callable kernels which you create on your own. Okay. In that case, we have one more value which is known as gamma value, which is automatically set by our equation or our method, SVM method, which is automatic. And you can also create your gamma value on your own, which is almost equal to 1 by n features. If you have 10 features, then your gamma value will be 0.1. If you have 100 features, then your gamma value will be 0.01. Okay. It's not hard and fast that it should be 1 by n. It should be closer to 1 by n. Okay. It's automatically. So why we do this change this kernel, we change this kernel or we change this gamma value or we change the value of C so as to increase our accuracy. We have to try with different values of C, we have to try with different values of gamma, and we have to try with different kernel so as to check that if we can increase our accuracy or not. Okay. We do all these things to increase our accuracy. Okay. Some of the advantages of SVM. Okay. So SVM is suitable for both linear and non-linear separable data. Your data can be of linear nature or of non-linear both. See here. Okay. Convex optimization means we are able to find a global minima, not a local minima, which is with the help of kernel tick. Okay. And SVM works effectively on smaller training data sets. Okay. SVM works good with smaller set because our linear data set, but when we have seen this linear regression, okay, that linear regression works well if you that set is of large quantity. Means if you have 10,000, 20,000 or 30,000 or 60,000 type of data, okay, it will give you a good accuracy like 90-95%. But if you have lower amount of data, it won't be giving you good accuracy, like it will be giving you accuracy like 70-80%. Okay. But your SVM data works well with if you have small data set. If you have 500 values, 700 values, or 1,000 value, then also only your SVM data will give you accuracy like 90-95%. Okay. because it does not rely on the complete data set. It basically rely on support vector data set. Okay, and some of the disadvantage of that is SVM is not suitable for larger data set. Okay, SVM is not suitable for larger data set, and if your classes are overlapping, okay, if your classes are overlapping, like your blue class and red point and green point all are at the same position, then in that condition we can not also do that kernel trick. We cannot also perform that kernel trick, and will not be able to classify this point correctly. Okay, if our points are overlapping. Now let's see the practical implementation of our SPM. Okay, so see this line of code and tell me in the chat that are you able to understand these 5 lines of code or not? Are you able to understand these 5 lines of code or not? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is this is my data set which will give me classification between the types of breast cancer. Okay, we have 2 types of breast cancer in this case. One is, let's just show you. See, so our data set has multiple values, like around 500 to 600 values, in which we are able to classify this. All the patients have breast cancer. We are able to just classify that which type of breast cancer they have. The first one being benign, and the second one being magmalite. Okay, first one being benign and second one being magmalite. You can find this particular dataset in your UCI repository also, which I have given you in the previous class. And if you want, this dataset is exactly also available as a demo dataset inside your sklearn library. Okay, this dataset is also available as a demo dataset inside your sklearn library. So for that condition, I have imported this low breast cancer from sklearn dataset. Okay, your sklearn dataset consists of 7 to 8 different types of dataset, which you can use for implementation of in all the different types of machine learning algorithms. Okay, so I have imported a dataset so that I can use in my working directory. I've imported the pandas. Okay, now I'm loading that dataset on a variable which is known as dataset. Okay, I'm loading that in a dataset and I'm converting that dataset into a data frame. Okay, let me just show you the dataset. It will be much more clear for you. Okay, this is my dataset. You can see these are my different data or different values. These are my target values, 0 and 1. 0 for benign, see, 1 for benign and 0 for magmalite target array. Okay, magmalite, and benign. And I have different types of characteristics. Breast cancer data set, you can see. Okay, and I have different types of characteristics on basis of which I have to classify. So the number of attributes are 30 attributes. Okay, 30 different types of attributes on basis of which I have to classify that whether this cancer is of benign or magmalite type. Okay, so what are the attributes like texture, perimeter, area, compactness, concave points, symmetry? These are the different types of features I have in my data set. Okay, and based on the data set I have to give my decision that whether this cancer is of benign type or of magmalite type. Total we have 212 magmalite data set and 357 data set of benign type. Okay, in total we have around 500 something data set. Okay, out of these 500, 212 of is of magmalite type and 357 is of benign type. Okay, this data set was created in the year 1994. Okay, and it was ready for use in July to August of 1995. Okay, now let's just see. So after loading the dataset, what I have done is I'm just converting this dataset into a pandas data frame so that I can do that iLog and log features so that where I can drop the target value. Okay, this target value will be my exact answers, you can say. Okay, because I'm using a supervised learning algorithm. Okay, so these target values are my exact answer. Okay, the answer which I want to plus know that whether this data set is of benign type or magmalite type, 0 or 1, 0 or 1. Okay, so this is my complete data set. You can see here I have 31 columns. Okay, so the first is mean radius, mean texture, mean parameter, mean area, mean smoothness, compactness, cavity, concave point. Okay, mean symmetry, textual dimension, worst texture, worst parameter, worst area, worst mounting, and all these things on basis of which I have to give the target values. The target can be either 0 or 1. If we have target 0, then it means we have of benign type, and if we have target value as 1, then it means we have of magmalite type cancer. Okay. Now what I have done, I have splitted that data into train and test two different parts. But before that, what I'm doing is I'm separating that data set from my end result. Okay, so these are my x values which will contain all the data points, and these are my target values which will contain my target points. Okay, the target points will be of 0 and 1. Let me just show you my data points and the target points. These are my data points. Okay, and if I try to show you the target points also. Okay, these are my target points. See, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay, so I'm not, what I'm doing is I'm splitting this train and test data. Okay, I'm splitting this train and test data. So you can see that in training I have 455 values, and for testing I have 114 values only for training and testing part. X and Y, X and Y. Okay. Now I will apply different types of kernel and we'll try to check the accuracy whatever we are trying to get. Okay, so let's first apply a linear kernel because I think my dataset is of linear type. Okay, I'm taking different values of C. You can take whatever the value of C you like. Okay, when you are going to do shift tab here. Okay, when you are going to do shift tab, you can see that we have different features like kernel equals to RBF, degree equals to 3 default value of gamma is scale, or you can do to auto. Default value of C is 1. Okay, you can change all these values. And for the details, you can see here what are the different types of kernel we have, what is C value. Okay, the C value must be strictly positive. Okay, and the maximum value of C can be 12, and things like that. Degree is always used in gamma function, or sorry, degree is always used in polynomial function. Okay, and the gamma, we can have two values for gamma, like gamma can be scale or auto. Okay, gamma can be scale or auto. So you can change these different types of conditions so as to get a better accuracy, or so as to increase your accuracy. Now in this case, I have taken my model to be linear, and I'm fitting the model. Okay, model dot fit x train and y train so as to predict, or so as to draw a hyperplane. Okay, now once I have drawn a hyperplane, I will predict my x test. I will do that testing so that as to see that whether I am getting the hyperplane which I am able to draw is good or not. Okay, I'm predicting my data set. So these are my predicted data 101, and these are my tested data. The test point, which these are my actual results. Okay, these are my actual results, and this is the result which I have get from my model. Okay, so to check that whether I have get a good enough model or not, in linear regression I had R score, and in this I have accuracy. Okay, you can see that I'm getting an accuracy of 95%, which is a very good model. Okay, in this case I'm getting an accuracy of 95%, which is a very good model, which is suggested as, which is known as to be a very good model, because accuracy of 90% is very good in machine learning algorithms. Okay, so I'm getting an accuracy of 95%. Now let's try to change our kernel. Okay, then let's try to change our kernel. Now I'm changing my kernel from linear to be sigmoid. Okay, I'm changing my kernel from linear to be sigmoid, and let's try to check what is the accuracy I'm going to get with the help of sigmoid kernel. Okay, let's do the fit part again. Predicted data, test data, and you can see that with the help of sigmoid kernel, I'm only able to get an accuracy of 42%. Okay, I'm only able to get a accuracy of 42%. Now we have one more thing, which is known as confusion matrix. So confusion matrix give us the accurate result, that how many values we are able to predict correctly and how many values we are able to predict incorrectly. So for first type, which is of benign, I'm able to predict only 10 values correctly, and my 32 values are incorrect. I'm getting incorrect result in my 32 values. This is on my testing data. Okay, accuracy confusion matrix I'm drawing on my test data only. Okay, and in the Magmalite type, I'm able to predict 34 values as correctly, and I'm predicting 38 values to be incorrect. Sorry, 38 values as correctly and 38 values to be incorrect. Okay, this diagonal follow. Okay, in first case I'm able to predict 10 values correctly, and in second case I'm able to predict 38 values correctly, and 32 4 values of incorrect predicted, and 32 values are incorrectly predicted. Okay, now let's just change the kernel. Now let's just change the kernel. Okay, I'm changing this kernel to be polynomial. Now let's see what I'm getting. I'm fitting the data again, predicting the values, test data, and accuracy. Now with the help of polynomial, I'm getting an accuracy of 89%, which is good, but we can increase the accuracy with linear kernels, as we have already seen. Okay, so with polynomial, what is the confusion matrix I'm going to get? Okay, because I'm getting an accuracy of 90%, almost 89.4. So in that case, I'm able to predict 30 values correctly of benign type, and I'm misinterpreting 12 values. 12 values are incorrect. And in Magmalite type, I'm able to predict all the 72 values correctly. Okay, I'm able to predict all the 72 values correctly. Okay, I'm able to predict all the 72 values correctly. Okay, so for confusion matrix, we have to import it from confusion matrix sklearn.matrix, and accuracy score is also present on sklearn.matrix. In matrix, we have multiple different features with which we can check our accuracy, confusion, and all the different features like accuracy and recall and precision. We'll see that in details in next class. Okay, just see the confusion matrix and the accuracy score. Now let's just run it for the linear model for which I was getting the maximum accuracy. Okay, 95% accuracy I was getting for this case. So you can see that for this case, when I'm getting a 95% accuracy, I'm able to predict 37 values correctly, and I'm only misclassifying 5 values of benign type. And for Magmalite, I'm misclassifying 0 type. Okay, I'm predicting all the values of Magmalite type correctly. Okay, I'm predicting all the values of Magmalite type correctly. Okay, am I clear to you guys? Just focus on this accuracy score for now. We'll discuss this confusion matrix and this classification report in details in the next class. Okay, don't worry. Okay. Am I clear to you guys? Just give me the confirmation in the chat. That did you guys understand it or not? I will send you this code in your mail, and I will provide you a 1 or 2 data set on which you can apply this SVM classification, and one data set in which you can apply this SVM regression also. Okay, I will provide you some data set. Try to apply this SVM classification and regression, both the things. Okay, like for classification, I'm just here importing this. Say I'm importing this cancer. There's the cancer, and this test strain is split. And after this test strain is split, I'm importing SVM, support vector classifier. And then if you are using this support vector regression, if you are using regression, then you have to use SVR, support vector regression, for regression data type. Okay. In regression, we will have a continuous value. So I will give you 2 data set in which one we have to apply this classification, and then in one which you have to apply regression, and try to get an accuracy above 94 to 95 percentage. Okay. Try to get an accuracy above 94, 95 percentage by changing different values of C, different values of kernel. Okay, by changing different values of C and kernel. Okay. Okay, then thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll end this class today at this particular session. This particular session here.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
doubt related to the yesterday's assignment, sir. So there
What?
is a website, yesterday's assignment, sir.
There's a
Doubt
website.
related. There is a website called UCI. What you have provided, no, sir.
Yeah, UCI repository. So that
Yes, sir.
website contains different types of data set.
Yes, sir. In the data set, it is giving like some file name dot data. So,
Yeah.
so how can we import that? We can't able to
Just
download that.
just download the data. Okay, and you will get the data in a CSV file, and just import that CSV file. You have already imported the data in the CSV file.
Actually, we are getting the data in the format of some file name dot data.
Okay, let me just check. I'm just trying to opening the website. Once I be able to open, okay. If you're not able to get that data set in the CSV format in that particular website, okay, you can just use this website, this different website known as Kaggle. Here you will be able to get the data set in the CSV format. Okay, Kaggle.com. I have given you the link in the chat also. You will surely be able to get this data set in the CSV format here. Okay, but the USVI should also give you data in the CSV format. Okay, I will try to do one thing. I will try to provide you the CSV download link in your mail so that you can easily download the data set and work on it. And if we have any problem with this user repository, we'll discuss that in next class and we'll give you a way to download that particular data set. Okay. Okay. Is that clear? Okay. Basically, all the participants which are joining the sessions, their name have been recorded, their name have been downloaded automatically, and we are creating an Excel. Okay. So based on your attendance and based on your assignments, okay, the attendance has a lower value but assignment has a higher weightage. So based on your assignments and attendance, you'll be able to get a grade on your certificate. Okay, the grading on certificate varies much more that how good you are able to understand, because you are also going to get an internship letter, and for that internship letter you are also going to get grades that how good you were during your internship. Okay, so please submit your assignment if you have not submitted.